France has declared a state of emergency in New Caledonia amid the wave of violent protests that have left 3 people dead and wounded hundreds.
A decree has been issued to implement a state of emergency in New Caledonia. The aim is to establish order as quickly as possible. Security reinforcements are due to arrive in New Caledonia in the coming hours.
Well, the unrest on the island, 17,000 kilometres away from mainland France, was triggered by reforms to voting rules pushed through by the government here in Paris. To tell us a bit more, Angela Diffley, our foreign editor, is with me now. And Angela, first of all, just tell us a bit about New Caledonia, about the population there.
Yes, so it's about 270,000 people living there, and New Caledonia was conquered by the French in 1853. Now, today, about 40% of the people living in the archipelago are Kanaks. They are the indigenous people of that island, that group of islands. And a lot of the subsequent problems have arisen between the difficulties between the Kanaks and particularly Europeans who are called the Caldoches. And there are in fact 2 groups of Europeans. It was a penal colony belonging to France for a long time. And so some of these Europeans are the descendants of people who were sent there when it was a penal colony, the descendants of prisoners. Others are European settlers. And of course, there are very many other people there. But those 2 groups have had frequent clashes. Then in 1998, after quite a bloody period, the Noumea Accords were signed. And under this agreement, New Caledonia was given a certain amount of autonomy. And very importantly, the government in Paris undertook to allow 3 referendums on independence. Now, those 3 referendums on independence were held between 2018 and 2021, and on each occasion, the people who wanted independence from France, the pro-independence groups, lost, and the population voted to stay with France. Now, it should be said that the final referendum of those 3 was held in the midst of COVID regulations, and it was boycotted by the pro-independence groups.
And why are we seeing this particular outbreak of violence now?
We're seeing it now because a vote took place in the National Assembly, which
here in mainland France.
In mainland France, which enlarges the voter registration base. Because some people say those referenda were really not very democratic because only 1 in 5 of the people actually living in New Caledonia was eligible to vote. And so this vote last night in the National Assembly, including, of course, parliamentarians from New Caledonia, it then has to go to the Senate and further down the parliamentary process. But that vote agreed that the voter base should be enlarged. And that would, of course, dilute the influence of the indigenous Kanak people. And that's what they're angry about. New Caledonia is very heavily subsidised by France, but it is also of enormous strategic importance to France. It is in the South Pacific, an area where France likes to keep a foothold between not far from China. So an important place strategically in the modern world. And it has nickel, which, again, is an important natural resource. So although France subsidises New Caledonia, it is in France's interest too. And some people say that the reason this vote to enlarge the voter base took place was because the pro-independence vote was creeping up slightly, and there was worry that it might get bigger in the event.
And what do you think happens now? How is the government here going to try and bring this all under control?
Well, what is a problem is that the political parties who speak for the pro-independence people appear largely to have lost control of a large number of young, angry, violent youths. And that is a problem. The political parties have issued a joint statement saying we all need to live together, calling for dialogue, but that is not being translated into action on the streets. Young people on the streets are running riot, and people living in the area are frightened. So that is a considerable worry. Emmanuel Macron has said you have until the end of June to come up with some suggested changes. And if not, it will go ahead. But there's no doubt that this has really taken people by surprise. The scale of the violence and the arms used have really taken people by surprise, both over there and here in mainland France.
Angela Diffley, thanks very much.